We'd like to call the work session to order at 5:02 p.m. And the first item on the agenda is are they here? Where's Molly? Are they? Is a DTE renewal presentation? Or? Yes, we'll go on to the next item. Is Issue Media? Sir, are you with Issue Media? No.
But I know he's coming.
Well, okay, then we're going to start out with Michael Staron, reallocation of hydro funds. It's voice activated yet. No, can't hear nothing. This is.
Now it is. Okay. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. In the 2022 budget, we allocated funds for a grant project for shoreline stabilization that wasn't awarded to us. So I'm asking tonight that we're going to reallocate those funds within the 252 fund to cover expenses that carried over from 2021 and for a couple other projects that have come up since the budgeting process. So, overall, I think I've requested 110 of the 125 that was allocated for the grant. And so that extra 15,000 we're just going to leave there in case something else comes up for the year, and hopefully not. So one of the projects we're doing, carryover from last year, is some electrical maintenance. And we also purchased circuit breakers for the generators. Those just came in last week, and those were ordered in last September. So those will get paid out of the 2022 budget since we see them this year. And I think one of the other items that for 2022 is putting new buoys in front of the dam for safety. The regulators didn't really like the way our layout was, even though it's the same layout for the last 20 years. It was the same when I came here. So maybe it's a new thinking of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. So we're looking through current standards or what other places are doing to kind of come up to the modern day safety setup for buoys on the upstream side of the dam. So the key thing that's important, major difference is if a canoe or kayaker came up to the orange buoys, they'd be able to kind of walk themselves down to the shoreline to safety. So that was one of the bigger improvements. So I think there's similar designs in Ann Arbor down in Belleville. So just kind of a run through of why we need this reallocation of funds.
All right, and you're going to do a line item transfer is what you're proposing.
Yep, so we can now do that through our interdepartment transfer since it's staying within the fund. It's a matter of moving it from capital improvements into the appropriate line items for these other expenditures.
Right.
So.
Other questions or comments regarding this? The only thing I would say is the shoreline stabilization is vitally important with all the flooding and stuff, so I'm not sure where else we can apply for funds, and I appreciate, us trying. I don't know what we need to move that forward, but as you've discussed with a lot of us, that's very important because of all the rain we've had, and it's causing the erosion of our shoreline around the lake.
Right, and so our focus is trying to fix these park areas that are being impacted by wave actions and boat erosion from the wakes of the boats. So trying to find funding for this it was hard. So we've been trying to do some work now for a couple of years and just can't seem to get enough traction to get enough funds for it. And I'm hoping that we can get more into that in the future. It's not going away. It's just a little bit more every year. So
perhaps we could come back with a RFQ and go out for engineering standards. And if it's, a project that's ready, maybe it could get some of the funding that's being allocated, billions and billions of dollars everywhere. But we might want to come back and just do the engineering for our park area and stuff.
And we can do that to start the process, just to see where we stand and what it will look forward. So we did it's been probably almost 5 years. I did kind of a inquiry with one of our landscape contractors. At the time, we're called JF New, Cardinal JF New. And two of the sites just in Fort Lake Park alone was well over $250,000 for a basic design just to stabilize it. So if there was any kind of a recreational enhancement, that price just skyrocketed from there, so.
Yeah, it collapsed, remember, off of Grove Road, and the drain came apart, and it collapsed and really ate up a lot of the soil over by Loon Feather Park. But we also have issues with other apartment complexes around where the shoreline keeps moving, towards their property. So I'm not sure what the exact solution is, but I know that we need to find one because,
Yeah, a lot of private property owners are looking at doing seawalls and of that nature, and I know OCS is trying to come up with standards for that type of process to help them, guide them what's acceptable and what's not. But just in the park alone, it seems to be more noticeable than before.
yeah,
So-
no, it's bad. Even the pond out front, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger if we don't do something. So I'm not, we'll find a solution to bring back to the board. I do think we should still do engineering for the shoreline,
Yeah.
even if we don't get,
Yeah, having something ready to kind of move out
Right.
would be key.
tee it up, is what I mean.
Right. Yeah, basically, if it is done, all you'll have to do is pull it off, dust it off, and have them relook at it to see what would be changed. But, yeah, having something ready to go would be beneficial.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions for Michael? Trustee Wilson arrived. The other line item that we work session agenda that we skipped over is Issue Media Group, and I know Paul is here. Did you have a presentation? Or-
I do. What's the best way for me to share it with you?
If you could go to the microphone, that'd probably be the best. I can barely hear anyway, so.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I do. What's the best way for me to plug into it?
Okay, and
Yeah.
you're just your name for the record when you get
Sorry.
time.
Sorry, Paul Schutt with Issue Media Group.
Thank you, Paul.
Sorry, first time.
I know, no. Good to see you in person.
That's great. Yeah, it's just under Y-Town.
Okay.
All right, I think we're just waiting for it to come up. And how long did you want me to, like 5 minutes?
Yeah, just,
Perfect. Just quick.
we have several new board members that didn't have the opportunity to hear you before, and
Okay.
it's good to see you in person and talk about the things that you're doing in the community.
Great, thank you. And I have to admit, this is my first in-person in quite a while, so,
You're doing well.
thanks so far. So this is a quick update on the on-the-ground IPSI program, and that includes Ypsilanti Township. We started the program about 3 or 4 years ago. If you could maybe advance to the next one. And just as a way of background, Issue Media Group, the parent company, we've been doing this for about 16 years. If you can go to the next slide. We do this in about 20 different cities around the country, about a dozen publications here in Michigan, and again. And where this came in response to was just an observation we made about local media when we started the company, that a lot of local media seems largely focused on loss. And we looked at what if we could, if you could slip to the next, focus on solutions in the community. And so solutions journalism is a concept that became more popular about a decade ago. And really the idea is that we would look at where we take the first half of an article and look at a challenge, who it impacts, why we should care, and then the second half of the article really focuses on who are some of the people waking up every day to try and solve it. So we can go to the next, and go to the next. And so the goal of the program is if we can increase coverage about the people and programs that are doing the kinds of things that are helping to move the community forward, we think we can actually, in some cases, see an impact and in some cases, an investment. And we gather these stories through community conversations and editorial advisories with community members, residents, business owners, and others. And we just really ask, what are the stories that aren't being told and what are some of the misconceptions? So once a year, yep, that's great. These were where some of the editorial advisories were being held. And you can see that some are virtual when, of course, it's appropriate. And maybe to the next one. We also attend regular meetings in the community. The woman in teal, Sarah Rigg, also sits in on meetings and just listens about what the community is concerned about, what are people working on. So we'll go to the next. So we just pulled out a select few stories for you that related to Ypsilanti Township. And so the first is, story on the left is really about when you were seeking input on the dog park. And then the second story on the right is about the American Center for Innovation. The next. And then the story on the left is the Quality of Life Initiative. And then the story on the right was the bank supplies pivot. And then the next story. These two, we looked at how different hair salons with head spinners were responding. And then on the right, Maniacal Meat Company. So looking at different small businesses in Ypsilanti Township. And then next one. And then the next was this came out of the Ypsilanti Township Recreation Department and Tina Hotchkiss. And then on the right is the Resilient Program, the new Resilience Program. And then the next one. And then we also looked at how folks are trying to attract more attention to the Ypsilanti Township parks. And then on the right, this is Feet on the Street. This is trying to improve the recycling programs here in Ypsilanti. And then the next story. Story on the left included a number of stories about like cross-country skiing at Rolling Hills, North Bay Park. And then on the right, of course, you can see the community skate park. And then on the right, keep going to the next one, I guess. And then we also looked at the pedestrian pathway over 94. And then on the right, we looked at how the Ann Arbor Summerfest is bringing more programming to Ypsilanti Township during that time. And then next. And then Growing Hope, focusing on West Willow and Willow on Acres. And then on the right, talking about new camps that are coming to Rolling Hills and Grace Fellowship Church House. And then next, we looked at some pop-up vaccination sites here in the township. And then on the right, is it Kalita Air, I think, one of your employers. And so looking at lifting up some of those lesser known, but definitely kind of hometown heroes with that. And then we can actually skip some of these because these are just kind of going broader in the county. Keep going, keep going. And then right here, so these are how many people these stories reached. So we're reaching a significant number. And again, these are not deduplicated, but if you can go to the next. And how these stories reach so many people is we, of course, have a weekly publication, but as we post everything online, we also post it to Facebook. And then what we're able to do is see when different organizations are resharing those stories. So all of these different organizations, we were able to see that once we posted the story, they shared it and it reached, of course, their audience as well. Maybe one more. And these organizations as well. And then we also have a partnership with WEMU. So if folks aren't online, they can still catch these stories on air as well. And then if you can go to the next one. We also had some of our stories picked up by the Jewish News here in Washtenaw County. And the next one. And then we also have a number of stories that are being reprinted by Chart around mental health and so forth. And next. And then also with WCC is on a regular basis. We're using our content as part of their communications efforts as well. And then if you can keep going past these quickly. Let's see. Past this, past this, past this. Past this, past this. Sorry. And then this work is made possible through a coalition of partners so that there is no single partner. So the township is one of a number of community partners, I think about a dozen. So everyone from Michigan Works to the community college to Eastern to Toyota to Ann Arbor Spark, Destination Ann Arbor, all of these folks that are trying to help work to bring all this work together. So that's just kind of our quick annual update, and just wondered if you had any questions.
Paul, I know you talked about how many hits the Ypsi Township community received, and you were surprised at how many township residents are reading.
Oh, yeah. Let me grab that.
That was good information once you shared it.
That was, what we've been able to do is we've been able to actually take a look at the population based on the last census against how many through Google Analytics, how many people are reaching it. And I think the number, I just have to double check it, but I think the number is about 32% of residents in Ypsilanti Township. We can see the number's a little bit less. I think it's more like 22% in the city. This data is imperfect, so I just want to kind of qualify the heck out of it, right? The reason is of course, you might have more than one device. Most of us don't live where we work. So, you might be looking at it one day at home in Ypsilanti Township, but you might work in Detroit, wherever it is. But what we are using it is as a way of starting to gather, is that trending up? Are we continuing to gain more and more readership in Ypsilanti Township about Ypsilanti Township stories? One way that we believe to see an increase in coverage is the more that we cover businesses and initiatives in the township, those stories continue to get shared more in the township. We continue to see more and more readership in the township.
Thank you. Are there questions for Paul?
I just have one. I'm looking at these are sponsors that help fund.
Yes.
Is the city of Ypsilanti one of your sponsors?
They're currently not, no. They have been in the past. And we're working to hopefully get them on board.
Madam Chair,
Good question. Yes, trustee.
I just wanted to make mention, ever since you guys started this partnership with us, folks have been really appreciative of the positive stories that you've been able to put out. Because as you know, this news likes a lot of negative stories about Ypsilanti, so I'm glad you are positive stories, and there's been nothing but positive feedback, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
I just have another.
Yes.
Paul, can you explain what embedded journalism is?
Yeah, so what we did intentionally, so prior to launching On the Ground Ypsilanti, we had reporters who would just, they'd cover a little bit of Ypsi, they'd cover Ann Arbor, they'd cover a number of things. We started hearing about maybe 7 or 8 years ago about this notion of news deserts, that there were certain communities that were underreported on by traditional media and specifically newspapers. And we felt that Ypsilanti fit that profile pretty well, specifically when you're kind of between Ann Arbor, that gets a lot of attention, and also Detroit, that gets a lot of attention. So the strategy for this is to have a journalist who wakes up in that community. So Sarah Rigg, who's a Ypsilanti Township resident, is the embedded journalist for this program. So she lives in the community, she attends community events. We hold editorial advisories here, listening sessions. So all of this is a very specific effort to have feet on the ground when we're doing reporting versus having reporters from Ann Arbor call Ypsilanti Township, maybe not even have been to these places before or met folks. So it's a really intentional effort to have kind of face-to-face journalism that doesn't exist much anymore. So that's the term that we use, is embedded, to help people make a distinction between getting on the phone and calling people versus sitting with folks and listening to their stories.
And maybe I missed her, but do they attend our board meetings ever?
I don't know if they do. I know that we get a lot of story ideas, but yeah,
I would just encourage that because they can hear stories here as well.
it's a great idea.
That may never get anywhere else. A lot of times residents will come in and information will be shared, and maybe that resident doesn't call or nobody reports it, but I mean, it would be nice to see somebody from some kind of a media here from time to time.
Yeah,
We discussed that at one time. It would be additional dollars to have someone here, but it would be worth it.
so we could certainly look at it, and we're certainly open to the idea. And maybe we don't have to come to, maybe it's not that she comes to every single one, but there
Yeah,
are
right on.
regular, I know that we're in contact with the staff and get story ideas and saying, hey, you should look into this and check out that, and we chase those story ideas down. But I can talk with Sarah about it as well and just see if we can find maybe it's not, again, every time, but on some regular basis, just so that she's also building some connection with each of you.
I was just
That,
thinking,
yeah.
even if it's quarterly.
That'd be great too.
Any other questions or comments?
All right.
Paul, I appreciate what y'all are doing. Before COVID hit, there was much more interaction, but COVID's been here now, 2021, now 22. But positive articles are so important, like Jimmy said. We never get, and MLive doesn't even know who we are, really.
Well,
So we appreciate it. Well, they do, I guess they don't. I don't know him like, how's that then?
Well, thanks again for the opportunity, and thank you for your kind comments.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
What was that, Deb? Anyone else have any comments? All right, excellent. Thank you for coming up, Paul. And if we could have a copy of that for the packet, that would be lovely.
Will do for sure.
Okay. Is DTE in the house? No? Okay. Hopefully they'll be here. Maybe they think it's at 7, I'm not sure. We'll go through the agenda, but I do know that Carlisle Wortman was going to be here too, and Jason for the Planning Commission. That's a major, just so you know, we get 2 readings on the zoning amendments, been through Planning Commission, and they voted on recommending, and then the Township Board votes on it twice, so if there's questions or additions or suggestions that we find as a board, you have until the second reading, so we can make that change if you find anything, but they're not in the house either. So we'll go to the request to appoint Clerk Heather Gerald Rowe, Trustee Gloria Peterson, and Trustee Debbie Swanson to the Ypsi Township American Rescue Plan Act, or the ARPA Committee. We talked about this, well, we've been talking about it since we got the dollars, and we said we would appoint a board committee to do the interaction and community engagement and work with everyone in the community in order to get feedback, not only through mailings as well. It's not only through digital, because not everyone has the opportunity to go to Zoom meetings and don't have access and ability to do that. So the recommendation, we discussed it internally, and we thought the 3 members, one is, of course, Debbie Swanson, who is a 36-year teacher in the Willow Run School District, as well as the Ypsi, now Ypsilanti Community Schools. So, and she teaches on Holmes Road, which is in the northern part of the township, and has had significant training in equity and through your teacher education. And so she's an excellent candidate. We have Gloria Peterson, who also can be the economic infrastructure person. She sits on the Planning Commission. She's a UAW retiree, so she comes from labor as well, and sits on the Yucca Board. So, yes. Oh, I'm sorry, it's ASME. I apologize, it's ASME. I meant, it's ASME, my apologies. But you come from a labor background, as well as sitting on the Planning Commission is important, and the Yucca Board for the infrastructure improvements that some of these funds could qualify for. And then finally, Clerk Gerald Rowe, who is a registered nurse, and public health is her passion and experience in life prior to being a clerk. So that's a recommendation. If there's any questions, Giovanna Neal will be supporting them from the accounting department, because, and Giovanna just attended the webinar on the final rules for ARPA that just came out last week. And we have to make sure that it's technically and legally expended, because they're federal funds, and everything you do has to have an invoice attached to it as well. So there's a lot of accounting and auditing that goes into it. So that's why Giovanna has agreed to help with the group and provide that accounting background for it. All right, any questions or comment?
I would just concur that it's 3 good people to be on. I'm sure they'll engage the community more than they can imagine.
Okay. And, all right, yes.
I just wanted to let you all know that I was just on the phone with Molly from DTE, and she's hoping to be here at some point tonight, whether it's later in the work session or right around 7 o'clock when our board meeting starts. So sorry for any confusion.
Is to request to designate funds if received from the Janssen opioid settlement to Washtenaw County. So it's still in the legal process, but once we did, we signed up, we are registered as a township to receive the funds, and it's over 18 years. Who does that? But it's $4,000 about over 18 years. And this, again,
No, go ahead, sorry.
is something we have to follow through accounting, and we have to submit. I did reach out to the county, Greg Dill, the county administrator, about perhaps partnering with them, and so we can get some treatment, or $4,000 is not a lot of money to give per year. Cumulative, it's larger amount, but per year. And Giovanna confirmed that we can partner with the county in order to use these funds so it can go further than just $4,000 a year. So when we get more information, we'll bring it in, and when we can meet with the county and talk to them about it, because there's several nonprofits that this could go to. But the county, I mean, how do you choose one nonprofit over another? And then we have to make sure as a township government that they use the funds appropriately. It's, local government, really, we're not set up to administer HUD funds like that, or federal funds. We just, but the county is very familiar with it and does a good job on it. So that's what we're recommending, but there's no action to take. We just have to take formal action that we received it and we're registered, because we signed up on our own before the break. We didn't have a board meeting. We had a deadline to sign up. So we didn't want to lose it, so we did that. And anyways, Trustee Wilson?
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was, someone earlier, they said they were on the AG's website and the numbers looked a little higher than the 4,000, but I can't find that right now. I just want to just clarify, where did that number come from, the 4,000?
It came from the website that we signed up for.
Okay, all right.
But like the ARPA funds, it's forever changing, and it's still, there's a legal challenge to it. So, but we didn't feel comfortable signing up without the board authorizing and accepting the fact that we signed up already for the funds. So this is a formal action. That number keeps changing, but when we met with them in December, that's what the number.
Okay. I just didn't want us to be losing out on if we can get more money.
No, yeah, no.
Help the community, so.
And it's still a legal challenge, so who knows what, we
Yeah.
could get more, we could lose. Oh, yes, Stan asked a question, is this the one that someone signed up for? And the answer is yes. Giovanna and I tried to sign up, and someone had registered Ypsi Township. The Attorney General's office was involved because they were part of it, and with their assistance, we were able to go back and register. So I don't know if it was a mistake. I don't know what happened, but yes, someone did sign up.
The only reason I asked that is if that was that easy for them to sign up there, we probably should watch all of our other accounts to make sure that nobody's trying to sign up in our name on our behalf to use our money. And I would even go as far as to say we might want to engage law enforcement to investigate. If somebody's getting on a municipality's website pretending to be them to get money that's designated for community, that's a fairly high offense. And I would be open to asking the sheriff's department if they could look in and see if they can find where that information was typed in at. I don't know the exact one, Travis. Is that an IP address? They can figure out where an IP address was, but that's down the road. At least we got it corrected.
We did tell the Attorney General's office.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, they probably won't But anyways, I just think we should watch, and if we can find out who did it, then we should, seek that investigation.
Yes.
So I have two questions. The first one, I guess I'll go with what what Treasurer Eldridge just was talking about. And if not the Sheriff's Department, I know at the new West Willow meeting last night, there was a representative from the prosecutor's office that talked about how they have a new economic justice group, which is really focused on fraudulent economic things. So I would think that maybe, I don't know how they work with the township, but that would be right up the alley from what they were talking about if you're pretending to be someone from a community. So I would think that would be something we could look into. The other thing I'm wondering about is I thought I saw a number where the county was going to get a settlement or was in talks about it that's much higher than what we're talking about here. So I'm trying to wrap my head around, in a lot of things, kind of the hierarchy of how funding will come into the county, and the county only gets funding for the county because of all the municipalities that make up the county. So it would seem to me that if they're getting a large sum for this type of a settlement, how they're only getting that because of the communities that are a part of the county. So I'm wondering, like, what's going to happen with that, how that money is going to be spent, because it was a lot more than what we're talking about here. And I'm also wondering about how information gets disseminated, because I know that we were, I think, and got an email that said, hey, you need to check into this, but I'm puzzled about how the county could be in a place where they could be possibly reaching a settlement, and then, like, what's the communication with us? I guess I'm just hoping for more collaboration and coordination and communication with the county, with all municipalities in Washtenaw County, but I guess the only one that we have jurisdiction over is the township, because I think that when we're talking about receiving desperately needed resources and support, you can't collaborate, in my opinion. So that number's really big, and I'm hoping that because our community would be one of the communities that was harmed by the opioid problem, is still being harmed by the opioid problem, that we would be involved in receiving resources when that settlement is reached. Because I haven't heard what the plan is for how those resources are going to be used.
I concur, which is why we kind of reached out. I just haven't heard back yet to find out. But I have had some nonprofits reach out, which, just like the ARPA funds, reach out and wanted to know how they could get the funds. And, like, that's what happens when you don't coordinate, So I will follow up on that again to see if we can get some coordination. And I'm guessing they're kind of in a holding pattern too, because they haven't received the funds, because it's still a legal challenge. Yeah. And there's a lot of good programs the county supports already and that are in the township. So, but coordination is a key, you're right. So this is just acknowledging it and formally approving as a board to accept it. All right.
Oh, Madam Chair, one last, if this number does increase, would it have to come back to the board, or was this the same usage, which is sending it to the county? Would that still be in place if this number was to increase?
Well, whatever, I won't do anything without bringing anything back to the board.
Gotcha.
I would never do that, yeah. So if it increases, we'll let you know.
Cool.
I thought it was like 4,700, but you never know. It changes. The number keeps changing, and
Madam Chair.
yes.
And I would, just add that I think our conversations around the idea of designating it to Washtenaw County, if they were to accept it, is to make the most impact for the most residents within our area that is possible. So even if it does, increase even a couple $1,000s, I still think, to provide the biggest impact for all of our residents would still be to try and designate it to go to the county. But of course, we would bring it back.
Well, coordinate, like Debbie said,
Yeah, that's a good word. Thank you.
but we'll keep you posted. The next item is a request to purchase masks for Ypsi Township and the COVID-19 test from the ARPA funds. There's 2 memos in the board packet, and Michael Staron is here, and he oversees the Safety Committee with Karen Wallen, Robin Castle-Hines, and Michael Hoffmeister. Am I forgetting one? Joe? No, that's it. And we have, so when we wrote the memo and had the meeting, testing kits were a real issue. And people, before they return to work, they have to have a test. And it was, if there was one request that we were receiving a lot of is where can we get tested? And since the memo, the federal government has come out with a online, but that really doesn't help the people who can't access it online. So we need to figure out a way to have them here. Our strategy was we were going to get 20,000 kits, test kits from the state of Michigan, and then we were going to distribute that with masks, like we did a mass distribution before, and perhaps in areas that might need it, do a little drop, like everyone has done in the past in neighborhoods, so that you can get them to people who need them. But that 20,000 test kits from the state of Michigan didn't come through. So this creates a fund for public health out of the ARPA funds, and it allows our township employees to be able to be tested, as well as if we order kits, we can distribute them, but we have to do it in coordination. And there were there were 2 test giveaways, tests and masks. One was in the city of Ypsilanti, one was at a church on Harris Road, and the posting was very specific for neighborhoods, and it was for West Willow, Apple Ridge, and Sugarbrook. And we have to make sure that everyone has access to tests and to masks, and we have to do extra work to make sure that they get to the people who don't have opportunity to get out and get them. But I was not aware of that. I read it on Facebook, and people were calling me. They wanted to go at Galt Village, which is right next on Harris Road, but because Galt Village wasn't listed there, or Thurston wasn't listed there, or E-Course wasn't, no one felt comfortable going. And that was, I'm pretty sure that wasn't the intent of anyone. So this will give an opportunity to not only take care of township employees, but also people who visit, who need masks, and people coordination with other entities, so we're not overlapping. Masks go quickly, and they're used often, and it's a great preventative tool for the spread, but if you don't have it, you can't wear it. And Michael and the safety committee, I applaud you for everything that you've done to protect the employees and the guests that come here, and this extra step is heartwarming, actually, that you want to get it out to everyone in the community with a coordinated effort. So, sorry, Mike, if I said too much. So if you haven't, Michael, you can give your presentation.
No, I think you've summed it up very well. Coordination's key, and having this funding in place so it's ready to be utilized for the community will be one hurdle that we can get past. So identifying those needs, so we don't overlap, is going to be important. So this is just that, so to speak, green light. So when it's time to get that stuff here, we know how much to order and where to focus and how to put that plan together. So.
It doesn't mean you're going to go order them. It just gives you the ability to order them within the guidelines of the financial policy as well. I want board members to know.
Right, absolutely.
You can't exceed the financial policy.
Right, and in the memo, it's more they giving you the guidance what is proposed. I tried to get pricing and availability so you had an idea, and I just gave you kind of some ballpark pricing, what was there the day of the memo. And if I go back and look today, maybe one of those, maybe two are the same, but availability is probably different now. And because of the quantity potentially ordered, we might end up breaking that up into smaller purchase order requests throughout the procurement policy. So all that'll get tracked through that bid and documenting those prices. So we stay within our procurement rules.
Questions or comments? Concerns? Trustee
Go ahead. I was just wondering if there was some sort of agreement with the county to get the 20,000 kits or masks? Okay, because I was thinking if they couldn't get it to us, then if they could reimburse us for money that we're using from the ARPA funds.
Yeah, the county, not yet.
Okay.
That's why I think coordination is just critical, because everyone wants to do the right thing,
Right.
but we don't want to duplicate and spend money that you don't have to.
Right, unnecessarily, right.
And test kits, what is a lifespan of a test kit? I know masks are 5 years, but what,
So I was looking into that. It could be just a few months to where it could be up to a year. It depends on when the batch was made and you got it. So we recently got a small batch to have on site, and they were only going to be good for 3 months. So, which really surprised me, given the need and how fast things are coming off the shelf. It's like, so it changes from manufacturer.
and the ones we order online, I'm not sure how long they're good for. You can
It's-
do it 8 times.
Right, and that's,
Per
and I looked in
household.
that too, and it was like, they kind of gave you ideas of when they were expiring. I'm thinking, is the website up to date, or are they now, really, they're only 2 months out? So it's like, I'm really cautious on that too, so ordering is more, I need a contact person to say, what are you guaranteeing these good for? Because I don't want to buy something that's going to expire in 4 weeks.
Right.
That's not going to do anybody any good.
Yeah, and that's where that coordination and communication with public
Right.
health, and I sent an email to Greg Dill about the possibility of figuring out how to coordinate this yesterday morning. I don't know what day it was, I'm sorry, I get confused on the date, but I think it was yesterday. And Diane Height, his assistant, called me. So we just got to get through the weeds and figure out how to, everyone work together to keep our community healthy. That's all we want. And I think that's all everyone wants, but coordinating is critical.
Correct. And, you know, again, even if we put in the request for purchase, it has to go through two more approvals after I submit it. So it's going to have those checks and balances, and I really won't submit anything until I get a hard number and plan from the supervisor or the other staff to come part of that coordination to be sure that we're ordering appropriately.
Yeah, Clerk Rowe received 10, I don't know, Stan, I don't know who received them, a bunch of masks that were delivered from the county. It was posted on social media, and we didn't know. So Clerk Rowe, she had people come in asking for masks, and we hadn't had the opportunity to divide them, and you have to wear gloves, you have to wear a mask, you know, there's safety precautions you have to use when you're dividing, because they were in 50 packs, 50 mask packs, and we got to make it work together. So I'm committed, and we'll continue to try to do that.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I was wondering, at the other sites over the weekend, they had the masks, and I think they were 10 or 15 packages. If you're going to order them, that may save some time. Because at that point, you're just putting that one container of masks in a bag for them. Instead of dividing those masks up, taking a chance, if they are safe, when you divide them up, and I agree, you do have to have masks or gloves, you know, to keep them safe. So maybe that's one thing, if you're going to order them through a company, if you can get them in a pouch, like 10 to 15. Just an idea. Save time.
Yeah, and that's my goal, is not to have to rehandle all this stuff. So
Yeah.
if it's 20 or 10, that's
Right.
all part of my
In
decision-making.
a separate pack
Yep,
that's sealed.
yep.
But 50 is a large number.
It is a large number. You know,
We appreciated it.
yeah, so, you know, that's our goal, is to come up with packaging that we don't have to rehandle.
Yeah.
Excellent point.
How long is this process expected to take if we move forward with this?
So based on a conversation with one potential vendor, they ship within 3 to 5 weeks, and I'm hoping I can find other vendors that are faster. A lot of it might be dependent on the quantity that we're requesting, so smaller batches might show up sooner. So again, it all depends on how our strategy works out to be, what our needs are. But potentially, orders start showing up in at least about 5 weeks, so which is really time-consuming because we're looking at a peak now, right? So we're still going to have COVID for a month or two, but is that need going to be as it is today? So again, looking at deliveries and the structure in place, it's all, those numbers and quantities are all liquid right now. Masks are another story. They can be a lot faster. But see, these COVID kits are just hot commodity right now.
Madam Chair. I just wanted to add, though, the masks, I know, maybe it feels like they're a little more readily available, but that night, me and Supervisor Stumbo stayed until like 6, and I think all but like a couple hundred masks were gone.
Yep.
Okay, and the assembly line in my office was quite entertaining, I'm sure, if you were Lisa listening to me.
I did offer to help, just so you know.
You did. And I thank you for that. But, I think it really shows the need in our community is still there. I know Supervisor Stumbo had a lot of people from the faith community reach out, and that was a really big need. And people are still gathering, and I fully understand wanting to be social and doing that. But I think masks are, while they might seem more readily available than the tests, are absolutely critical to mitigating everything.
Right.
So,
And I guess I should clarify, when I meant readily available, through our vendors.
yeah.
So maybe not to the end user, but for my numbers, like for who I deal with, they were a lot faster.
Small businesses need them. I mean, they have to provide them for their employees and, and the guests, if it's not a restaurant, because it's hard to walk into a restaurant and eat with a mask on, but other small businesses, they're in great need. Hair salon, barbershop, there's just a lot, but.
So, Madam Chair, the only thing that when I read the proposal was just to be careful, because there are counterfeits. So if we're paying for KN95 or N95, we want to just make sure, which I'm sure you would do, but who would think that somebody would be taking advantage of that? But you're paying more for that, so we got to make sure that we're not getting or receiving counterfeits. It sounds like it might be more with the N95 than the KN95. However, that in place, and then one more time, I'm just going to say that I am extremely frustrated and concerned with the lack of, I understand we only control the circumstances within our space, but our well-being is connected to the coordination that is larger than us. So I keep thinking flow charts and because I really don't understand the rhyme or reason of how things are happening. And I think in the best interest of all the residents in Washtenaw County, and in order for us to be able to help Ypsilanti Township best and to be helpful to our neighbors, there has to be an organizing overall structure. And I guess if all we can do is figure out what the flow chart and the way things are happening within our municipality, that's great. But we will be limited and impacted by the lack of coordination beyond us, which is very sad. And I'm hoping that can change. But I guess we can maybe represent that ourselves as supplies come in. What's the plan and the strategy for supplies going out? And if we understand that and we can get coordination to happen outside of us, then we have a way for it to come into us. Because I am troubled by what seems to me as a haphazard approach to desperately needed resources in our county.
Thank you, Trustee Swanson. I agree. So we'll try to fix it, but it's got to be more than us. It has to be. And we'll continue to try to do that through Washtenaw County. And maybe they have a provider. Maybe they have a storage of masks. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, and if they do, then if they don't want to distribute them to the local government, then we'll purchase them from them. So we can start getting them down and getting test kits, at least in here. It was hard for us to get testing kits for here for our employees. So, but we keep trying and appreciate setting up this fund. So for public health, this, you know, and if we do have, I know that Michael Hofmeister and was coordinating with the county and with the state to do something at the community center, which is set for 30 days so that people know Monday through Friday or Tuesday through Saturday. We could have a site there where people could go and it's walk-in, you don't, and we're still working out those details to do that, but a mailer on that would be necessary because people will not know. We can do social media, but if you don't do a mailer, and maybe we could do a message on things that the county will have that we're not aware of, and we can put it on there, but trying to coordinate that has not, and the county at this time is not going to do it, but the state is committed to 2 days a week. So we're still working out the details on that, and when we have them, we'll let you know. It's not easy. It's been difficult.
So I guess in my expression of frustration, I'm looking at employees who have worked really hard to make sure that the people in the township have been cared for. So please don't let my frustration seem like I haven't seen the work that's happened in the township. So I'm just frustrated beyond what I've seen happen here. As far as engagement goes, Rob and I know neighborhood watches, when you know what's there, you make sure people know at those meetings. If we don't know, you can't do that dissemination of information. I know that, like, I didn't have a KN95. I'm teaching school every day. The only reason I had one was because I come to a meeting here, and then I was able to pick up one here and had it in my bag. So I know that what needs to happen here is happening. So please don't let my frustration mean that I don't know or I don't see the things that you've done here to take care of our community and the people here. So thank you for that.
That's a good point about the schools. They have $21 million in ARPA funds. What are they doing? And we need to coordinate, you know, with them. And I know in the past you have distributed child masks to the, from Ford Motor
Daycares,
Company
yep.
to the schools.
Schools, daycares.
So we'll continue just, you know, to try to make sure everyone has opportunity to get these supplies and coordinate. Thank you, Michael. Other questions or comments? Are we still waiting for DTE? Nope, not yet. Okay. So we're still waiting for the DTE presentation, and we'll just continue through the agenda, if that's all right with everyone. Owner's safety program of our hydro dam. Michael?
Good evening again. So this is my annual memo to the board in support of dam safety and the efforts to maintain a safe project for our community and downstream communities. The whole idea is to help recognize the need for safety and funding for safety projects. So this is probably the 5th or 6th year of doing this, maybe longer now. Off the top of my head, it might be longer. But this is specifically for Ford Lake Hydro, not related to the one in Hewins Creek. So that one there is regulated by the state. So there's a little bit of a difference. And actually, on Thursday, we'll be having our Owners Dam Safety Program team meeting, talking about prior year events and plans for 2020. So everybody stays up to speed with ongoing stuff for the project. So anything from safety to just operational constraints or changes through licensing. So.
Questions or comments from Michael? All right.
Knock out all my board members tonight, so I have to come back in 6 months.
The next item is a resolution for non-motorized pedestrian crossing on Huron Street. Woo-hoo! 20 years in the making.
Good evening, Mike Hoffmeister, Residential Services Director. Okay. Not working. Oh, there it goes. Mike Hoffmeister, Residential Services Director. This is a resolution that commits us to basically $120,000 for a TAP grant matching fund. And that is a grant that was applied for and awarded to the city of Ypsilanti. But because this project does span into the township, we are also recommending a commitment for TAP grant funding, match funding, as well as $98,900 to convert the box span traffic signals into mast arms. And if you're not familiar with that, box span are the simple strings or wires with the lights hanging. Mast arms are the real nice looking mast arms with the street sign on them that you'll see in other areas of our town. So we are looking forward to this resolution, hopefully getting processed and passed to the state of Michigan so that we can proceed. This, of course, is the project that creates a non-motorized connection over I-94 on Huron Street. It is a partnered project with the city of Ypsilanti and the state of Michigan, and the current plan is to open the bidding in February and to award it in April and to start construction shortly thereafter. So we're very excited about this.
Would you like to talk about the other portion of Huron Street?
Sure. Sure.
That's coming in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's correct. This board previously allowed us to go out to bid for what we call as Phase 1 of Huron Street. That is the west side of Huron Street between Huron River Drive and Joe Hall, and then James L. Hart to the North Bay Park entrance, where there's a bus stop, of course, a number of bus stops along the way. We are meeting internally this week in hopes to bring back to the Board of Trustees a recommendation to award the bid, go to contract, and then construction engineering services. So we'll have a busy 2022 of trail development on Huron Street.
And we're going to have lighting as part of that as well. It's going to be a nice improvement, but the pathway over the bridge, like I said, it's been on for over 20 years on Watts, Washoe Area Transportation List, and it's, many people go back and forth between the city and township. It's not safe to do that at all. And then if you're non-motorized and you're riding a bike, it's not safe either. So this is a welcome project to the township and the city. Questions or comment? Thank you, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of Michaels here. So on the agenda is also the request to approve the Issue Media Group. And that was what the presentation was for. If there's any other comments on that, speak now or forever hold your peace. I'm kidding. The next item is a budget amendment number 1. Giovanna Neal is here and helped prepare it, but a lot of it is rebudgeting the funds for the Loon Feather Park Improvement Project, the Huron Street non-motorized path, and we received a grant from DTE to fund the community center special events. We weren't able to use it all in 2021, so we're rebudgeting that as well. And then the request to create a new expenditure line item for public health out of the CARES Act fund. Any questions on that? All right. Before we go to authorizations and bid, Shane Peltier, who is our lieutenant with the Washoe County Sheriff's Department, also attends the meetings with us because when residents have concerns or if board members have questions about the report that was submitted in our packet, then Shane will be happy to talk to us and to our residents. We also have a weekly meeting with the Sheriff's Department, and we get updates Robin Castle Hines attends those as well, so we can share it with Neighborhood Watch, so. Well, Happy New Year, Shane, it's been a busy one. Authorization bids, we have, these are annual requests for mulch installation, and it'll go out for quotes and come back to this board. Sidewalk repair and sidewalk replacement, they're two different. Sometimes for a repair, you shave it off to make it level, or you insert or inject cement in by boring a hole in it, and then you inject the cement in and it raises it up to level it and make it safe. We also have annual replacement for tree trimming and removal, which is another big issue in the township, not only in our parks, but throughout the entire township on township property. And when trees fall, Washtenaw County Road Commission will come out if it's in the road right away. So it just depends on how the tree falls, I guess. And then request to seek proposals for qualifications for a website revamp consulting firm and a website content strategist, which will come back to the board. And Travis is here. I don't know if you want to speak to that issue or wait till it comes back. If there's questions on anything, let us know. Any questions on, everything's going to come back to the board. All right. All right. Anything under the board would like to discuss? Any public comments at this time? No? Yeah. Huh.
Okay. Madam Chair, I'll just go ahead and give, Molly is on her way from DTE. Again, I apologize for that timing issue. That is my fault. And in the meantime, you guys get to hear some updates from the clerk's office. So our state did finalize their redistricting maps. They've accepted all of those. They are anticipating, some challenges around those maps, of course, because nothing can happen easily in the legislature. And so we're just waiting for our county to kind of give us guidance on when to send out new voter cards for folks. Our districts didn't necessarily change, but the numbers of your districts did. And so that still requires the clerk's office to mail out new voter registration cards. They are trying to do it countywide to help with cost savings. And so our clerk's office has expressed our interest in doing that, just to be more fiscally responsible with our money. And coordination, you're right, Debbie, look at that, coordination. And so we're just, waiting for communication from them. We're not anticipating to have a spring election, thankfully, but we will have August and November ones. And so we will have our new voter registration cards out within well enough time to do that. Myself and Treasurer Eldridge, we just concluded with the help of HR some interviews to hopefully get 2 positions, one in each of our departments filled. So we're looking forward to that. Today, myself, Mike Hoffmeister, John Hines, and Travis McDougall met with our the firm that we've chosen to go with branding, and they just gave us an update. We're hoping to bring all of that back to the whole board soon, within the next couple board meetings, just for an update. And DTE is here, so that can conclude my clerk's report. Thank you all for listening.
Attorney Winters, do you want to give the report here or in the board meeting?
Are you ready for us?
Yes, we are. We were very excited.
Come on down.
We thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening, and our apologies, we had down 7 o'clock as the board meeting tonight. So I have with me some different representatives, both from DTE and Miller Pipeline. It's our contractor for the project. Brandon Francis, who's the project manager, and I'll let our contractors introduce themselves.
Jason Tuthill, Superintendent, Miller Pipeline.
Yeah, the person who does the minutes are really, they're not in the meeting, so when people speak, if they would give their name and
Sure,
the,
absolutely.
what part of DTE.
Okay, so I'll start
Kick it
that
off.
off. Molly
All right.
Lumpert-Coy, Regional Manager for DTE Energy, cover Monroe, Washington, on Lenawee, and I've been with the company for now almost 30 years.
Yes, you have.
Go ahead.
Brandon Francis, Project Manager, DTE Energy Gas Renewal Program.
Jason Tuthill, Miller Pipeline. I'm superintendent for the Detroit and Washington area.
And I'm Dan Brown, General Foreman for Miller Pipeline. I work under Jason here in the Detroit, Washington County area.
Thank you for coming very much and doing an overview.
Wonderful. And Brian Valrance, who you may have met before, may also join us this evening. He was just running a few minutes late. So we have a presentation I know that we've shared, and we also have copies of the door hanger and I think letter that was sent to the residents. But we can start off by working through the presentation with you,
Yes.
if you'd like. And do we have somebody that can click or drive? Oh, perfect. All right. So again, we've been ongoing with our gas renewal program all across the state of Michigan, and this is probably what our
Oh, man, probably, we've been doing it for probably 8 or so years now.
8 or so years. So it's a huge investment in our gas mains. And just a quick overview of what we hope to cover today. We did introductions, purpose behind the gas upgrade benefits, safety, scope, contractor partners that you just met today, resident communication, because that's something very important to us and important to the township, is the proactive outreach that we do with our citizens. And property restoration and contact information for you during the duration of the project. Move to the next. Okay, I'm going to invite up here with me Brandon, and we'll go through this with you. But again, this is a $3.5 billion investment over 18 years. Natural gas infrastructure, we're improving the reliability and safety of our system. Gas upgrades include new pipes, service lines, meter relocation inside and out of the building, and installation of new gas advanced meters. And so you can see some of the benefits there below. I don't know, Brandon, if you want to emphasize any of those benefits?
Yeah, we're using new and improved materials such as polyethylene gas main that has the potential to have reduced gas leaks and better reliability. Our program enables remote meter shutoff in response to a gas leak, minimizes the number of estimated meter reads, eliminates the need for DT to enter a home, and facilitates more frequent and comprehensive inspection.
Perfect. Next slide.
Some of the COVID-19 safety procedures we're using, we are doing daily health screenings, using social distancing, and wearing safety glasses, masks, and gloves. And we also would like to emphasize that if there's anybody with COVID in the house, that they're letting our crews know. And this is all part of our communication flyer that we'll cover later on in the presentation.
Okay, next slide.
This is a map showing the overall area. As you can see, we have South Grove there on the bottom, and we're working up towards the top there, just south of the interstate there. And then I'll go over schedule and sequencing. Dan, would you like to help kind of cover?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
So we're currently right now, we've got 3 crews in the city of Ypsi. I got 1 crew on South Harris. He's working his way down the west side right now. He started at the north by 94, working his way down to Grove. We've got a 2nd crew on Foley Ave. They're working their way to the east over toward Andrea. And our 3rd crew is currently working down on Grove Street right now. He started at the 90 right there at, I can't remember, I'm sorry, the name of the street, but he's working his way to the west right now. When he gets over to a certain point, he's going to stop and he's going to fall back down to Lakeview and install some more main, and that's how we're going to get our gas, is at that point.
All right, next slide, please. Some of the vendors in which you can expect to see in the township include this is actually old. We're going to have Pipe Tech is the name of our contractor, who's going to be doing the sewer camera inspection. We'll cover a little bit more on what that is in a little bit here.
Miller Pipeline, who is installing our gas main and also doing our services and meter move out. And if you scroll down a little bit, okay, our property restoration vendor is still being selected.
Brandon,
Yes.
is it, simple way to explain this is that there's a current line there now, and what size is that?
It varies. So there's,
3 inch?
yeah, it varies between probably 2-inch and 6 or so, yeah.
And the size of this is going to be,
That also varies depending on the engineering requirements and the load required. Some of our larger header gas mains are 4 or 6 inch that carry gas down major streets, and then a lot of the inter streets in the neighborhood are often 2 inch.
but the idea is to replace this for better reliability, right? for
Correct,
gas?
yep. That's right,
And the leads going to the house will also be replaced.
yes. So our scope of work for the township includes about 10 and a half miles of new gas main, which impacts 836 service lines. Of those 836, approximately 333 meters will be moved from the inside of a home to the outside. Construction is planned January to September, and restoration is targeted 30 days after construction. And that is during our our restoration season, so between May to October. So right now, any restoration would be temporary, and we would do the final restoration as soon as the weather breaks. We have multiple methods of communication, which include our initial letter that goes out via the United States Postal Service. We also have door hangers, one for scheduling of an appointment, one for restoration, and then one for once the restoration has been complete, which includes some instructions on how to care for it. We also have nextdoor.com that we utilize when we post updates. And then finally, we have our website, which has a map that's live and it's updated with monthly dates. And then also it has frequently asked questions as well. This is an example of our customer notification letter. We do send this in a bright yellow envelope. We found that more people tend to open it. And included in there is a magnet that has the website and a phone number that goes to our station. It's a dedicated line that if they call, they will get a response within 2 business days. And so then it also has the process for how we install the gas main and the service and the meter move out and what they can expect. We have a special letter for corner homes. Corner homes tend to be impacted differently than a home that might be in the middle of the street, in that there may be gas main installed in front and to the side of the home. So what this letter does is it kind of explains that process. It lets the customer understand that, we haven't forgot about you. This is how the construction process is going to flow, and just kind of puts customer at ease and explains to them what's going on. This is an example of our 3 different door hangers. So the one here on the left is what we utilize when we're making our appointment. So our contractor, Miller Pipeline, in this case, would be using these door hangers. We do try to make 3 attempts, and then we would write the name of the foreman and who they can get in touch with to make their appointment for their meter move out. The door hanger in the middle here explains what the customer can expect once the gas upgrade has been complete with regard to restoration. And then the last one here is once the restoration is complete, thanks the customer for their patience throughout this process, and has a follow-up phone number if they have any questions or concerns. We have some different pre-construction activities that can be expected before we do our main installation. We do periodic staking of the road right-of-way as needed. We do misdig to do staking and locating of existing utilities. And we inspect privately owned sewer sanitary lines from the home. This is to help us understand where the sewer laterals are and to prevent any sort of cross-bore while doing our gas main installation.
And that's where customers might see Pipe Tech, right?
That's correct, yep.
Pipe Tech is the contractor that's doing the sewer inspection piece, so, yep. So along with Miller Pipeline, our other contractors, Pipe Tech.
Yep. So restoration for GRP work follows service completion, approximately 10 to 15 business days during our restoration season, which is May through October. We utilize the door hangers with the next steps provided. And so we also have our restoration coordinator would walk the streets prior to restoration with our contractor to quantify and come up with the scope of work and perform the restoration. This graphic just shows our communication process. We do keep in touch with the customer throughout the entire process. 30 days prior, we send our letter, we do our next door post. 2 weeks before, we do have an email that goes out. On the day of construction or during construction, we schedule our appointment. And then after construction, we have our post our restoration notifications, our post service, and the different door tags that we utilize. Lastly, this is our phone number, 313-270-9240. That goes directly to our gas renewal station in Detroit. It can be reached Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And if a message is left, we will return it within 2 business days.
That kind of takes you through pretty much an overview of the program. This is not new to the community. We've been here for the last couple of years, actually, but just phasing in different parts of the community. The team certainly prides itself on being a good corporate citizen, and we had, probably about 30 members of the team that helped with the park. I know that Supervisor Stumba was there with us, but we did a massive cleanup of Ford Park. We also supported the senior holiday luncheon this year and a number of other small festivals and events in the township. So we pride ourselves on being a good corporate citizen and trying to be very proactive with our communications. We did meet with the Washtenaw County Road Commission and the Busing Authority, and so our project team has tried very hard to keep our stakeholders informed. So is there any questions we can answer for you?
Questions or comments from board members? Trustee
Go ahead. Nope.
Trustee Newman?
Okay. So can I? I guess I'm just trying to understand, in summary, just that, because I'm looking at the benefits, and these are for residences, right?
Correct, residents and the whole system as a whole. Our regulator, the Michigan Public Service Commission, has basically advised us that we need to perform these upgrades throughout the state of Michigan. Many other utilities are doing the same throughout the United States. So this is an upgrade in the system. We're going from kind of a cast iron pipe system to more of a plastic system, reliability.
Yep, that's correct. Our 2 main metrics, if you will, are to reduce the number of legacy unprotected steel or cast iron gas main in our system, and to move out meters from inside the home. So our true north is to have all polyethylene gas main where we are able to, and have the meters outside of the home.
So when you say meters inside the home, how does that compare to the meters outside the home?
The customer wouldn't notice any difference or any change in terms of their gas usage or anything like that. It's simply better to have the meter outside for ease of access, and if there was any sort of leak or anything like that. Yes.
Electronic readers?
Yes. Yep.
Similar to YCUA?
Okay.
Yeah, very similar to the water meters.
That's
Yeah.
YCUA, yeah.
Yep.
That's how they do it, yeah.
And then where it says eliminates the need for DTE to enter the home for maintenance, so would that mean like gas leak inside the home, there wouldn't be a gas leak inside the home because of the restructuring?
Yeah, if there ever was any sort of issue with the meter, the customer would, we would not have to enter the home to repair it. And then we wouldn't have to enter the home to get a read on the meter because it is electronic.
Okay,
It's a more sophisticated meter system that we're
okay.
putting in.
So I guess, how does that relate to the furnace and pipes running there to the furnace? Or?
So when we move out, when we schedule our appointment to move the meter out with the customer, a DT representative, in our case Miller Pipeline, would come in and they would be able to remove the meter and put in the new one outside. And then if there's any sort of fuel line inside the home, usually it's only a couple of feet that need to be fabricated. We would be able to do that. And then DT would come and relight all the appliances. And this process usually happens in the matter of 4 hours or so.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you've answered my questions.
Trustee Swanton, did you?
So I had two. I'm trying to understand, like, when you're digging and you're putting in the line or replacing the line, there are other utilities there, that's why the sewer is going to be checked. Is it also that sometimes there's like cable and other communications at the same time in the same place?
Absolutely, yeah. When, there's communication lines, electricity, the water mains, storm, sewer, all sorts of different utilities. And so our misdig process that we call in 3 days before construction would help locate all of those, and then our contractor avoids those utilities by knowing where they are and using their best practices.
And I appreciate that. I guess my concern is, or one of the thoughts in my head is that, as technology changes, the area that you're working in is like some of the older homes in our community where some of the utilities would have been the first in, right? And so if we're going to dig, it seems like we'd want to coordinate with any other kind of utilities because digging once is better than having to dig up to go replace something else. So on a project like this, is there ever coordination where we realize we're going to have to dig? And if you want to replace or put in or whatever, let's all dig and do it at the same time? Or is it just each entity does their own kind of separate plan?
Want me to answer that? Sure. So we actually meet with the road commission and the township. In fact, before we even began this project 2 years ago, we came in and kind of provided a forecast as to where we would be over the period of years. So we try really hard when possible to coordinate with other entities.
So not necessarily with like cable or with any of the others. That would be our obligation to say, hey, this project's going to be happening. If there's anything that needed to be improved, there's going to be digging. Like, do you ever have communities where you're working and if they want something replaced, they're doing it all at the same time?
We try and coordinate with the township or the municipality and also the road commission, so the regulating bodies. We try and do proactive communication and outreach well in advance to know if there's any particular street projects coming up or any opportunities where we can come together and time appropriately, right? That's been our experience.
And to elaborate a little bit on that, you'd asked about digging and such. Our contractor primarily utilizes horizontal directional drill where they bore the gas main underneath, so there's less destruction. We do have to spot when we are crossing utilities and such, but we do drill most of the work underground, and so we try to minimize the impact to this community.
Okay, and then my other question was about the meters. So maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I thought there was a time where they were out and then they were pushed in, or have they always been in and they're pushed out?
The meter.
The meter, yeah, because I thought we went through a time period where DTE was asking for them to be in.
Upgraded our meters, and most of the older homes have inside meters as opposed to outside meters.
That's correct, yeah.
So again, we're trying to move the meters
Yeah.
outside.
So there was never a time period though where you guys where people had them out?
I can tell you not for 30 years that I've
Okay,
with the
'cause
company. I can only speak to 30 years.
I've experienced, like, not in the township, but in the city,
Sure.
where there was pressure to put it in.
Oh,
and then now there's pressure to move it out.
Our
And so-
regulator would like to see the meters on the outside, I think for
Okay.
ease of access and number of
No,
reliability.
that all makes sense to me. I'm not arguing that part. I'm just saying the pressure was to go in, and then now the pressure is to go out. But so from your understanding, it's always been that they were on the
Out.
Right,
in,
we
and we're
prefer to
moving
move
out
them to the
now.
outside,
And
absolutely.
the same with, like Yucca was the same.
Yep,
Yeah, so I'm not sure.
okay. Just clarifying.
Yep, thank you
Yeah,
very
good
much.
question, especially if it's opposite somewhere else. So I can see that. And we do, like, the road commission has to issue a permit in the road right-of-way.
Absolutely, they review our work, we submit our schedule and our drawings and permits, so.
And AATA was on it, on the email, YCUA.
Absolutely,
And
yeah. Our
I'm-
project managers reached out to AATA as well. So we've tried to make those outreach touch points several times.
But Cable and AT&T, they have to go under a separate permit with the road commission as well. And
Correct.
trying to figure out, the good news is, unlike the AT&T project that we've had them cut DTE lines for street lighting and a couple homes when they were digging, Miss Dig goes out and they mark all the
Correct.
utilities in there, but it's within 18 inches is what I was told. Well,
Yeah, it's a 3-day or 72-hour period, where Mystig is called, and then the entities that have things in the right-of-way will come and mark, so.
so our office hasn't had any calls regarding this project, but I have had a lot of residents asking that are outside the notification, area, because you're notifying the people you're directly affecting.
Correct.
But, and a lot of people, so we have it on our website, but that, we try to answer the questions and provide the information to people. But just tonight, I had someone ask me about what's going on Harris Road and Grove Road. So,
Absolutely, you're starting to see some of the mobilization and
Yeah.
work, certainly the number on this, and then, if you ever have any
No,
inquiries,
we
I
do,
can handle it, or
and
Brandon.
And I think we encourage a lot of our municipality partners to, share things on social media if they have a community page, things like that.
and we're doing that through Neighborhood Watch too, when we get to those two neighborhoods. So we're trying, like Debbie says too, is to make sure we reach everyone. It's not always, social media is not the end all for everyone, and we're realizing that too. So we're trying to push it out through Neighborhood Watch and as
And
well.
we appreciate that very much. In fact, my counterpart that does public affairs work was meeting too with all the neighborhoods. You guys were very gracious in
Right.
connecting her with the neighborhoods, and we hope to be in front of that group as well.
Right.
With just an update.
Yeah.
So that's coming up as well. So we're trying a number of outreach touch points.
And
So
with-
we appreciate all that you're doing too to help us get that message out. It's very helpful.
Yeah. And
Before COVID, it was a little easier. We'd have a barbecue and we'd show our maps and everything. So we're doing the best we can now.
Yeah,
Do it
and-
virtually.
And I haven't had any residents call that say you've done anything really. I don't know if other board members have, but I haven't had any real complaints from residents in the area that you're directly affecting either. So thank you and you are always available, even Saturday and Sunday, whenever we get, I reach out immediately if residents have an issue, and you guys respond wonderfully, and we appreciate that. Electricity and heat is critical, and
Absolutely.
this project hopefully will continue to go well, and as we expand more, we'll be able to have in neighborhood, because we were going to do a neighborhood meeting, if you remember on this.
Absolutely. We wanted to do that, and
we
we
did.
actually did the first year and a half, we did a public town hall virtual meeting.
Right,
And we didn't have many attendees, but we did promote it pretty heavily throughout
right.
the neighborhood groups, so.
Right, and if it wasn't for COVID, you would be actually it was going to be in the park, and you were
Right.
going to invite people to come out and coordinate it with Robin and Neighborhood Watch, so, but, COVID has changed a lot of things, so.
Definitely.
We appreciate the efforts, and.
Yep, and that's why we're trying through social media as best we can to reach out to those neighborhood groups, so. But thank you very much as a township. You've been great to work with, and, we're here to be good corporate citizens, and we want to do a really good job, as does our contractor. So we're committed to making that a smooth transition for the project. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I just want to make a comment. I seen at the beginning of your presentation, one of the benefits would be eliminating the need to estimate meter reads. And, I know over at my church, we have gotten a lot of those, estimations. And so I'm just glad that our residents can, when you first get that bill and it's out of whack, you get a little stressful. But I will say DTE normally ends up taking care of that issue. But, this will eliminate some of that stress up front when they get that crazy bill out the blue.
Absolutely. That's our intention.
Thank you so much, Molly and crew. And
Thank you, and
we
thank you for
appreciate
accommodating our presentation tonight.
it. Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay.
all right. Now, attorney's report.
Is it leave behind?
Good evening, and I have given a lot of thought to what I'm going to say tonight, but I've kind of modified it as we've gone through the meeting. It seems like sometimes the first 2 weeks of this year have felt like the last 6 months of last year in terms of just the demands that are being placed upon the full-time officials, the administrative staff, the employees, et cetera. And there was a time when I think the townships and counties, and maybe even city councils, could actually have, quote-unquote, a retreat to just kind of at least establish a list of priorities as to what really do you want to see accomplished in any given year. Obviously, a retreat is not what I'm recommending. The question may be whether or not there would be something that would be a substitute for a Zoom. And the reason why I'm saying this is because we have so many different ongoing and competing projects that at times
They can't hear.
who can't hear?
There, yes.
Nobody can hear? You can hear now?
Yes.
Did you hear anything I said?
It was shaky. It was shaky.
Well, that pretty much sums up how this whole presentation began, is that the more things change, the more they stay the same. And what I was trying to say right now is that I think we need to figure out, and maybe it's not possible, and if we can't, that's okay, as to just how to use our time as wisely and as diligently as possible, because I've said it over and over again that we just don't have a deep bench. And by that, I'm just trying to explain that there are so many things that are going on. In the first 2 weeks alone, going into week 3, we've just been slammed with meeting requests for many projects that are actually a carryover from 2021. And you got to bring some degree of finality to one project before you go on to another. At least that's what you would hope for. And sometimes you have to juggle, things in the air. But for example, right now we have a lot of time that's been set aside and is going to be dedicated for our labor negotiations, and those are starting to really are going to pile up here pretty quickly. I think Debbie and other people on the board mentioned about this issue of communication, coordination, connectivity, and all that is really extremely important in regards to the entities in our own backyard. I'm referring to the Ypsilanti Community Schools. We have a number of issues that have taken a tremendous amount of our time, staff time, in dealing with how we're going to repurpose the schools in Ypsilanti Township. When I say repurpose, what kind of uses can they really be lawfully used for, and what is the best use for the community's resources? And again, we've had to sort of go from fire to fire to deal with that issue, as opposed to having really strong engagement with the Ypsilanti Community School System. We've had meetings. We had one Zoom meeting I remember last year. But again, what is really going to be the board's priorities this year? Washtenaw County is another example right now where we spend an awful lot of time trying to play catch-up on the COVID-19 pop-up test site on Walmart. And I think everybody recognizes the importance and the need for having testing. In fact, tonight, I saw where I think it was the president of the World Health Organization announced that contrary to what people are believing, the Omicron will not be the last variant or the last mutation, and he expects from the WHO standpoint for the COVID to continue for quite some time. And so if we're going to have testing sites available to help deal with surges, whether it's Omicron, Delta, or the yet-to-be-named new variant, the county has got to engage with this township board as to what the plans are so that the fire marshal, the building officials, and maybe even ultimately the ZBA is engaged as to what the real plan is going to be. Again, it goes back to what is the priority. This board has spent a lot of time working with the Washtenaw County Road Commission, and there's a lot of challenges with that. In regards to whether or not this board is going to have to do its own regional traffic impact study to make sure that we have traffic mitigation measures that are going to be safe, to protect the health and safety and welfare of the motoring traveling public. We have so many infrastructure issues. It's exciting to know that we finally have the connecting communities and the pedestrian pathway, but Mike Hoffmeister and I are still trying to meet with the Stantec engineers to get our arms around making sure that Loomfeather Park is done properly, because some of the trails down there are going to be torn out because they're not ADA compliant. Again, all these things are always percolating around. And even when I write letters to the board, I struggle in trying to figure out just what is the priority even for this board. Because to some degree, I have to use a certain amount of judgment as to how much needs to be shared in a given week, because there's so many things that are going on day in and day out. Again, that is why I was thinking, and maybe it's not a good idea at this point, to have some kind of session where we could just brainstorm and try to either prioritize and even figure out how we're going to have relationships, be it with the school district, with the county, with other organizations, to make the workload a more even flow. And we've mentioned flow charts and things of that nature, but again, it comes down to what's the priority. We've talked about Reimagine Washtenaw, talked about the AAATA, and I had some real concerns with that agreement and the fact that I don't think they're living up to that agreement that we made with them a number of years ago. Redevelopment of existing township properties remain a challenge, be it Liberty Square, be it the property on Bridge Road, be it the Seaver Farm property that is now back before the board as to what is the best use to enhance the use and the tax base. We have issues from the police standpoint, too, as to how to make sure that we have enforceability of our development agreements, so that when one development says they're going to have on-site security gates that can only be accessed by residents, that we make sure that they're held accountable to that and not being in a reactive mode, as opposed to making sure those type of things are followed through on. So right now, there's an awful lot of thoughts running through my head as to how to maybe make 2022 maybe not necessarily a better year, but a year in which we can say that some of these issues have been put to rest, new ones have been embraced, new relationships are forged. I still believe this board is in a position to exercise a very strong leadership role in trying to make sure that the county lives up to its promise that was made 20 years ago to bring to the eastern Washtenaw County a recreational facility that can really impact the way of life for, well, like the YMCA wanted to do, from the infancy, preschool to the elderly, that otherwise can also have better health care, nutrition, classes, et cetera. There's so many things out there which can be done through a recreational facility. And again, the question comes down, how do you want to spend your time and resources? I'm not sure I have all the answers. I'm not sure I have the best answer. I just have an awful lot of questions that I think that at some point in time the board may have to weigh in to help give direction as to how best to utilize our time, because otherwise it comes down to, I don't want to say ad hoc decision-making, but it comes down to ad hoc moments where we have to say, okay, we have to stop doing this to deal with that, because that has become more urgent. And again, I'm not picking on any group or anything, but again, when the county decides they're going to do pop-up testing in a parking lot, we just need to know. We just need to know. It's not a question of saying no, we just need to know. And make sure that we have resources that can look at this from a safety standpoint and be a true partner in a collaborative sense. So those are the thoughts that I have for the first meeting of this year, and I know that there'll be a lot more, but again, the first 2.5 weeks feel an awful lot like the last 6 months, but I know things are very, very, we're very, very blessed to have the people we have working for us, and very, very blessed to have the staff and all of you to support what your consultants and other people try and carry out. But I am just concerned sometimes that there's so many balls in the air, so to speak, that I'm afraid we may catch the wrong one or let one drop that we shouldn't. And it's just something for food for thought, so to speak, as to, and maybe the summer months will allow us to maybe do something differently. We used to go out to other parts of the township to have township board meetings during the summertime. That was a good thing for many, many reasons, because it allowed the township board to go to some of the communities where people otherwise might not come to a township board meeting. And so, and from that came an awful lot of good ideas, good feedback, and things that we probably did not know about or would not have known about had we not gone out and had a township board meeting in their neighborhood where they could actually feel at times more comfortable to speak out and speak up. Just things to think about. And I know COVID, again, has sort of been the grim reaper in terms of spoiling everything, but I do think that we have to look ahead and just see down the road how we can connect better, communicate better, coordinate better, and without having to go back to the same issue time and time again, which becomes very, very weary, very, very expensive, and it's just like the definition of insanity that Einstein used to always quote, that it's doing the same thing over and over and again, expecting a different result. And I've tried to avoid that, not always. I mean, we all can take responsibility for some of those things I'm talking about. It's just that just trying to figure out a different way of trying to change the paradigm a little bit and to do things in a way that we can approach it with a different, fresh set of eyes. And maybe it's not possible right now, but I just kind of felt compelled to bring it up because so many of the things that each of you were talking about during the work session, I kind of had written down on my little paper here. And so I think everybody has the same ideas of what needs to be done better and differently. It's just how do we get there? And so this, I'll leave that thought with you, and any suggestions you have as the year unfolds, I'll be more than glad to sit down with any of you individually, collectively, and just brainstorm, just so we can prioritize how to spend our time.
Thank you, Mr. Winter. Any other comments? I do know that we're working, there's a lot of odds and ends that I'm working on. The Vermin contract still has to come back. We're doing it, expanding it, and that'll be coming to the board at the next meeting. And with Evan Pratt, who's helping us at the county level, one of the greatest county elected people I know. The fire department is also, we're going to have to retest for firefighters, and we're in the process of doing that. We're working on the fire marshal position that's also vacant, that's being worked on, and like Doug said, union negotiations. And it's just imperative that people follow the rules of the township and the standards that are set for planning and zoning. And to not communicate or just set up a pop-up, which is usually temporary, and they're looking at a year. We can't have people putting up stuff in vacant parking lots and not going through the township. So that company did reach out to Jason in December. Jason told them what needed to be done in order to have that pop-up, and none of it happened, and they just appeared. We cannot allow that in this township because they'll do it everywhere if they do it in one, and you can't pick and choose where you want to do it or what you want to do it for. And so, like Doug said, the staff is doing a good job, and so many things are coming at us, and, you know, you have to respond to the day-to-day stuff that occurs in addition to planning and prioritizing, but sometimes it just feels like you're reacting to a lot of things that are happening. So one of my personal professional goals is communication. And I want Ypsi Township to be seen and heard, and that's not happening. So we've been attending different meetings in order to hopefully get us at the table. We're the second largest community in Washtenaw County, and we deserve to be more informed on what's going on. So I'm committed to doing that. We attended the road commission meetings and attended county commissioner meetings, and we'll continue. There's other subcommittees. Jimmy, I know you're on Community Action Board, and they, according to the state, was supposed to get part of the 20,000 kits. I don't know if that happened, but that's what they said was going to happen, and I'm like, okay. So we need to just, you know, show up, Doug, and we have to be more involved in order to get a seat at the table. So I'm committed to continue doing that on behalf of the township, as well as setting the priorities. ARPA funds are a priority. We have to address some infrastructure improvements. YCUA directors here, and there's a lot of infrastructure needs at YCUA that we're trying to deal with. And I know, Doug, you see literally everything that comes through the township. Some people are concerned that attorney bills are high, but like any other business, we want to make sure that we're legal and everything is appropriate. And your firm does an excellent job in the prosecution, as well as reviewing all contracts to make sure that we're legal. And that means a lot, as well as public nuisances. This year, they're already popping up on us, so we'll keep going and doing the best we can. With communication is one of the key goals. You're right. So I appreciate everything you said. We're going to take a small break because we have a board meeting starting in 9 minutes. Is that all right with everyone that we take a little break? All right. So the meeting's going to adjourn at 6:51, and we'll come back at 7 o'clock. I'm gonna send this.
That's what was on the computer.
Yeah, this is a great.
Are you going to give us copies of those?
Yeah, I'll send them out to everyone, but I just printed it out. It just, when I read it.
got it.
It helped me tremendously.
Yeah.
So this is a newer one.
Okay.
This is new one I just got today.
Okay, and this is what I sent to,
Mailbox.
oh, yeah, you're right.
I'll try to bring it out. I'll
gotta
go
get my
it.
budget.
That's why I was going to.
Okay.
Is that open?
Yeah,
This, Brenda?
No, this is new.
Oh, it's
We-
different.
We did, I sent it to the committee just today. We just got this today.
Send it today?
Okay. Okay, so that's what I tried to send out, so that people could.
This is new, and every day we get something new.
Give me a copy, my pen ain't working.
I didn't think it would, that's why I wanted to hear
You
it.
gotta get ink.
Okay,
You can't hardly print nothing, print one thing, the ink goes out.
exactly.
I know.
Crazy.
Yeah, I'll go and get
It's
my stuff.
expensive too.
Is it heavy? Is there a lot of stuff in the box? Is there a lot of stuff in the box?
Our budget books.
Well, I'm going back.
Yeah, I'll go and walk. Yeah.
No, but I saw you.
Take my case in case I gotta bring it back.
Yeah, there's Jason, and that's, they handle all the.
Thank you.
Planning. Yeah,
I'm
they-
sorry if
I know you, but I see.
Jason, I'm Jason, the township planning director. Ah, Jason.
Good to see ya. Good to be seen.